You're listening to the All In Podcast with your hosts, Shane and Blake, giving you a new perspective on the dental industry. Are you ready to go all in?
Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
And welcome to the All In Podcast, the podcast that brings you a new perspective on so many things and every once in a while dentistry. And today is one of those dentistry days, guys. But I know you guys have missed me a lot, right? How do I know? Because I've been getting harassing DMs in my Instagram inbox. Anytime I run into one of you people at a meeting, you harass me about when the next recording is coming out. So here you go. I hope you're happy. And you really should be happy because this episode is all about you. No, not you, the listener, but Dr. Victoria Yu, who is our guest today. So let's all welcome Dr. Yu to the podcast. How are you, Dr. Yu?
Shane, I'm doing very well. That's such a creative use of my name. Never have anyone have done that. So
you may not pick this up in her voice, everybody, but I believe she's being extremely sarcastic here. But I do know, Dr. Yu, that you are a fan of puns almost as much as I am, right?
Potentially. Yeah.
Potentially.
I mean, my name might have lent to that my entire life. So potentially I'm interested and maybe good at that.
Well, I apologize, but I'm going to keep using it as a pun because I find it hilarious. So I hope that's okay with you, Dr. Yu.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that I'm really, really good at is really making fun of myself. So
you're in good company, and my audience knows this very well, that I do so much dumb stuff that I rarely get embarrassed anymore. There you go.
Yeah, agreed. Me too. So let's.
So Dr. Yu, you're the Chief Clinical Officer at Mid-Atlantic Dental Partners. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Can you tell everybody, kind of give them the high level, fast forward version of how you got into like where you're from, how you got into dentistry up to becoming a chief clinical officer at a very large dental service organization?
I feel like, you're asking me to write one of those online dating profiles, which I did a few years ago when I was going through some stuff, and I wasn't very good at it. So I just made it super short. So I will continue in that. I am Victoria Yu. I'm a clinician at heart. I graduated from University of Maryland, did a little training at Johns Hopkins, and then subsequent to that, I worked for a fee-for-service practice. Outproduced my boss. He didn't like that.
Didn't like it. You'd be making him money, right?
Well, I know. I mean, funny enough, I was on a pure salary, right? And he just didn't like that because I guess I used his iTero machine at the time, or the scanner at the time, way back when, too much. So I had to leave that situation, and I joined a local DSO and was their top producer. Subsequent to that, joined Heartland and opened up my own practices. Now I'm the chief clinical officer of 240 practices under the umbrella of Mid-Atlantic Dental Partners. It's been a tremendous ride, and I continue to try to make fun of myself in front of more and more people. So as it grows, hopefully more and more doctors can realize that dentistry isn't so boring and so stodgy, and that the dentists of tomorrow are actually human beings, and we will achieve a lot of success if we are able to just really care for people. And I think that's an important component of care that I bring to my clinicians and focus.
100%. Put the patient first. And if you do the right things for the patient, everything else falls in line, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mean it. Yep.
So you ever seen the movie Office Space?
I have. Yeah.
You have? Do you know that one part where they bring in the consultants and they're kind of interviewing anybody? So I'm going to do this to you. So as a chief clinical officer, what would you say it is that you do here? Like, what's your day to day, right? Like, how does that work? So do you still practice? Because I know some CDOs or CCOs don't actually continue to practice. Are you practicing right now?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people ask that question, not because they don't see me push out product, but because, they wonder what I'm doing. And, am I in an ivory tower somewhere? No, absolutely not. As you can see, not many of your speakers, I'm in an office where it's a hot mess behind me, and there's a calendar of events that I need to keep up with. I have a lot of meetings with vendors. I focus on quality of care for the clinicians. I focus on support of my doctors through any issues that they may have. We come up with initiatives that drive the clinicians to focus on comp care. We put together, and by we I mean really just me, and who I've garnered from other departments in my company, and we put on CE events for our clinicians. We partner with vendors. I help doctors with patient issues that they may have, any questions with operations, really. And, it's endless amounts of meetings and calls all the time. And then I just basically fall asleep at my desk and, get up the next day and do it
Well,
again.
don't tell anybody that, right? We'll take that part of the podcast. I'm not taking it out, folks. I'm not taking it out, right? So how has that transition been from, being an everyday, I'm practicing dentistry? Like, how did that even come about, or the want come about to move into a role like this, right?
Yeah.
Really the business side of dentistry and representing kind of all the doctors within the organization, essentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. How does one, do 4 years of school, 4+ years of school after college to train on a very technique sensitive surgical procedure and then want to leave it to become a representative? So at the other DSO, it was evident that, new grads, doctors coming out of school were in need of guidance, and guidance from clinicians who've gone through the process, more so than from an operator who was just driving through numbers, because they don't quite understand what it's like to be a doctor and to be short-handed dental assistant and hygienist and still have to get through and still uphold quality. So I saw the need there, and I mentored a few doctors, and then having had my own practices, thriving practices that we then brought on associates there. I mean, it's just glaringly clear that, someone needed to step in to kind of groom the doctors and help them.
Sure.
Because when you graduate, like, we're really just all very lost souls, and we're hopeful that we have a mentor. But partner with a right mentor, a career could really take off. And if no mentor exists, then we're at the mercy of which course is marketed the best to our inbox.
Yeah, that's kind of well said, because just because you market it well, it's kind of like with dentists, right? You could be an amazing marketer. You may get tons of patients in, and patients don't really know if it's good until after the fact, right? And even after the fact, they may not actually know till later.
I know. You're so right, Shane, because, and I felt a need because I've gone through a lot of the struggles that clinicians shouldn't have to go through, that I feel compelled.
Can you be specific? Just I'm actually curious, like, what are some of the struggles that because there's absolutely people listening right now who are probably going through the same struggles that you went through.
Yeah. Good question. Let me give you specifics. For example, I graduated and I wanted to be, fee for service, because at school you think, I don't want to deal with insurances. I'm going to be, providing I don't know, salt scrubs, pedicures, the waterfalls, and that's
yeah.
I'm gonna have, right? That's what they kind of teach you in school, and then you hear that DSOs are really just mills where they churn and burn dentists. And from my experience, that is absolutely not true, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would agree with you.
In fact, from my experience, I think practice of dentistry under an umbrella, a support group umbrella, there is more quality control, and in fact, more courses and more focus on growth of the clinician than there would be at a private practice. So
yeah, that's actually true, because you actually have somebody like you saying, I'm assuming you go to your clinicians and say, hey, what do you want? Right?
Right.
and then see if you can produce that. If you're a private practice, it's just you, right? Like it's me. I got to figure it out on my own, which can be a challenge, right? And by the way,
Right.
to kind of comment on that, some people consider DSOs mills.
Yeah.
Listen, there's good private practices, there's bad private practices, and there's everything in between. And that is the exact same thing for the DSO market, right? It's there's good, bad, and great actually. So, and everything in between those. So that's why I would say would you advise a young, dental student or somebody coming right out of school who's like, well, maybe I'll go into DSO first, to not just check in with one, right? Possibly look at a few just to see the differences.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I've given talks on this specifically to dental schools and ASDA kind of groups across the nation. What to look for in a practice to join, and like you said, there's a breadth of great to absolutely awesome private practices, and there are DSOs that are on that spectrum as well. I think it's important to ask for clinical autonomy, clinical mentorship that's going to be available, education that's going to be either in person or virtual, right? We're just coming out of the COVID world. How much did said DSO pivot so that the clinicians are still afforded the opportunities to grow in their clinical abilities during COVID. I think the creativity of the clinical team to continue to focus their clinicians on care and elevating their knowledge base is good indication on how much a DSO is really wanting their doctors to lift their value every day.
So, Dr. Yu, do you see a direct correlation between the quality of education and the quantity of education that, let's say, your group provides for your clinicians? And does that correlate directly to increased production, increased quality care, and increased satisfaction among your clinicians? I'm very curious on this one.
I think that's a really good question. It's very loaded. I think, just because someone is constantly getting educated, as in taking week after weekend course on, X and then Y and then Z, does not necessarily translate to increased care. In that, what really is important in the thoughtfulness of the curriculum provided from a clinical director like me or a chief clinical officer is the actualization and the execution of the learning immediately after learning, because statistics have shown that if you don't use what you just learned, you lose about 40% after week 1 and then 60% after week 2. And then after week 3, if you go to an implant course, endo course, whatever you do, you haven't used it.
Yep.
Week 4, you might as well not have gone. So when we put on programs, there's a lot of planning in advance of it and scheduling of patients to ensure my doctors use this skill, or if it's a general training that they are able to execute on it. And there's a lot of training in the operational counterparts that ensures that the doctor is able to see lift in their productivity or their ability to provide comp care. So, that's also
that does make
really
sense, right? So you got to learn something and then actually do it, so you retain it, right, and then move forward.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before that your first practice, you outproduced at this the owner of this fee for service practice, right? And then you came into a DSO and you were an extremely high producer there. How did you? What's the methodology for that? Like, is that just a skill set you had?
Yeah.
Like, how did you immediately come in and produce?
Talk about, give you an example of over eagerness. I used to, within my first year of practice, I love endo. I in fact love everything about clinical practice. To the point where I would diagnose a patient needing root canal and I would like clap my hand and say, "You're going to need a root canal today." Like Shane,
be excited.
I know, I'm so excited. You're going to need a root canal. And, at a fee for service practice, a root canal, build them a crown was like, what, $5,000?
Yeah.
So not only, the treatment planner office manager had to take me aside and tell me, hey, Dr. Yu, just so that you know, like, you shouldn't probably be saying that because you're freaking patients out. Or she was much like, how was I able to become so successful? I think, honestly, I grew up with grandparents who are physicians, who are surgeons. And it's been instilled in me that it's my duty to do something good for humanity. And I really saw taking care of people, getting them out of pain, preventing them from having pain, as the ultimate calling. So it didn't matter to me like how much, whatever it cost. It's just if I knew my patients needed it, I took it to heart to
Sure.
communicate to them that this is what they need. And I think they could feel the genuineness of my desire to help. And, I would stay through lunch, stay after, to provide the care that they needed. I wouldn't be like, oh, well, it looks like, I'm out, right? I have a, yoga class, I have a date, nothing. I would just
See
be
you
like,
later.
"All right, well, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll see you in 5, a week." I wouldn't do that. And I actually, I lived about an hour away from the local DSO, the practice where I practiced, and we worked 7 to 7, and it wasn't uncommon for me to stay until 8:30, and then drive the hour home because my patient who came in at 6:30 needed something done, and I just didn't want to say no to that person because I knew they were in pain or whatever. I remember doing an extraction and a bridge until like 8:30, and the patient was so appreciative. Like,
Oh,
her
yeah.
husband came in. It was just, I think things like that people can feel.
Sure.
So nothing extraordinary. I mean, I haven't had any personality training or anything. I think just probably just blessed with good examples in my upbringing.
So I'm going to give you what those 3 things are based on what you said, because I get to listen to it. So authenticity, you're just being honest with patients, telling what they need. Empathy, you'd stick around longer, right? Put yourself in their shoes. Like, I wouldn't want to come back in a week, right? Like, if I'm in pain. And then hard work. Like, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty simple, but that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, good summary. I was helping my son do his project on Thomas Edison, and he's named Edison.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, I didn't know this until I did the research with him.
Sure.
But Thomas Edison did something like 3,000 trials for the light bulb to actually work. So, if anything, grit and persistence is the key to success. But it's not at all sexy.
And also stealing ideas from others, because I do believe that Thomas Edison may or may not have borrowed some of those ideas and was very good at working with patent clerks, essentially.
He was very crafty, correct. But I didn't quite think that was important to include in an 8-year-old's, that kind of.
I do. I think when they're 8 years old is a perfect time to just say, "Hey, people suck." Right?
Yeah. People are out for themselves. You should definitely highlight that to your classmates.
My son, one of my sons is actually 8 as well, so I think I'm going to go when he gets home from school today. I'll go ahead and go ahead and give him that lesson.
I think that's important. If you need the PowerPoint, I'll shoot it over. It's
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Why People Suck by Dr. Victoria Yu.
Why would you put my name on that, Shane?
You said you had a presentation. All right, by Shane McElroy. That's fine. I'll pull an Edison and I will steal your presentation.
That's right. Do what you gotta do, man. Like, it's yours. All you.
That's how I claim other people's ideas all the time. If you say it out loud first, then it's yours. So.
Yeah. Or if you say it louder, yeah.
Kind of. Go ahead, right. Go for it. Let me ask you this. So there's a lot of consolidation going on in the market right now. I mean, obviously everybody knows that, DSO is the future, right? Like, group organizations, like, that is what's coming. The market's consolidating, whether people like it or not is what it is. But there's also consolidation within that market itself. So you got a lot of mid-sized DSOs being grabbed by large ones. You got mid-sized coming together and merging. And you guys not too long ago went through a merger, right? With Perfect Teeth, Mid-Atlantic Dental Partners, Perfect Teeth, and Dental One. Can you take us through kind of that process? Because I think that's what a lot of people don't experience or understand. They hear about it.
Yeah.
What is that process like?
You're so right in kind of forecasting the future of dentistry. I do believe, and industry leaders as well, that DSOs will be the future of practice for our profession. Um, Now, having gone through the integration of three large companies to arrive at the current 240 practices, is not an easy feat, right?
Yeah.
Because think about, if you merge, even two people together, there's personality differences, there's philosophical
100%.
differences, there's different mindsets from different parts of the country, obviously different processes that have kind of guided the growth of the entities to its current size, and potentially some bad habits that are deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
So have gone through integrating the two large kind of massive beasts together to make the larger parent one. It's interesting. It feels a bit like uh, a plane taking off, but us having to build the plane as quick as we can, and learn about the different, what's good from both, and coming up with an ultimate better way of doing things that we can present to our clinicians and partners, and have them want to adapt it. So very interesting, and very much, excuse me, based on relationships.
Oh yeah.
So communication, yeah.
Now, but where do you start, right? Like, so is it and where do you decide, are we going to keep the brand names? Are we going to merge them all into one? Are we going to do individual practice names? Like, is that the start of it? Like, what's the first part of that process after obviously there's the business side of acquisition, right? Like that's, mergers and acquisition. Let's put that to the side. But like once the acquisition is done and the merger is done, what is the first place? It's just communicating in relationships? Is that where it starts?
We, my partner and I, we're very much people, because Tim and I, and we thrived on being with our people.
Mm-hmm.
And first step we took was to have like a world tour where the teams met us, maybe shared a meal with us, or heard us, and was, we were able to get everyone together in a centralized location, most initially, and share very transparently our mission and our vision, because that's, we need alignment behind that, in order for us all to kind of row in the same direction in the boat. Subsequent to that, very much focused on relationship building. And then subsequent to that is process building and systems,
Yep.
Where we would identify, what each company was doing, and that led to, whatever result they got.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would either fix that and make it better, or, we would completely change it. Of course, with the agreement of the clinicians who are in practice. I think, being very careful and thoughtful in the analysis process is what a lot of our clinicians really appreciated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the things where, you need new, paint on the walls, like if it was within budget, we'd try to get that done. Making our doctors happy, making our hygienists and our dental assistants, office managers. I think field operations is where, that they're the most important people. And then we kind of looked at corporate structure subsequent to that. And then kind of building a team to support our missions was, kind of the last step of that.
By the way, I completely agree with your assessment. Like anybody in the field, right, that's directly dealing with the patients is the most important. In the same way, like for a sales organization, right?
Yeah.
I used to be out in the field for a long time, and then we're both behind a desk a lot of times right now. And I tell them all the time, I go, I've become less important. Like you guys are the most important part of it. And it's that interaction. That's the face of the company. That's the patient interaction. And that's going to make or break you, So it's got to be the people engaging with the patients.
Yeah. And we always felt, as a leadership group, that if we took care of our clinicians, then they're able to do what's most important in our company, which is caring for patients. But it's no longer, our job to take care of the patients by any stretch. And they're not, it's if we do our jobs right, then our clinicians can focus on that care.
Oh yeah.
And it's so good to see you guys who aren't able to see this, but Shane is literally sitting in an ivory tower.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
that,
It's
he's
awesome.
really, it's cool there, optimal amount of lighting and moisture. I don't know.
It's a dark, dingy office. I have to turn off my overhead lights because they make a buzz, so it picks up the recording. So it's the exact opposite of ivory tower. My wife gets to sit in her office in the ivory tower, and I get relegated to the basement in the little closet,
Basement dungeon.
where I belong. Right, where I belong. All right, I've got a very serious question for you now. You mentioned that, and you brought this up, which is why I'm bringing it up, that you were filling out an online dating thing, right? Let me ask you, which platform did you use? And there's a reason I'm asking. I'll explain after that. Is it like Match.com, or is it like, I don't even know what the ones out there are now.
Well, in light of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, I feel like you're pulling what's her name, the Vasquez lawyer trick. Now,
wait, is that the good lawyer, or is that the defense?
Yeah,
okay, good,
she's
sweet.
the
I'll take it.
Other one on the other side is like completely.
Can I ask a question? Objection, but you asked the question. That is not a good attorney.
Yeah, she was. Amber probably found her on Groupon. What website did I use? I used OkCupid.
OkCupid. Not familiar with that one.
And are you or not? Like you're.
Well,
you're
okay. So here's why. I actually met. Just so you know, I met my wife on Match.com, but this was 13 years ago, right? Before, like at the time, I was embarrassed to talk about it. Like, how'd you guys meet? It was like, well, Match.com. Yeah, it's now everybody. It's weird if you don't meet on a site, right?
Yeah. Nowadays, people are so anxious, and there's no outlet. But like my dates from that, I used to call okay stupid. Like I used to think I was stupid for doing that. But no, I mean there are plenty of good people and plenty of good websites, I think, nowadays that people can meet on. And it's very romantic that you met your wife on Match.com.
No, everybody thought it was a weirdo at the time, right? Nobody at that point in time, nobody wanted to admit to it, right? You want to hear an interesting confession on my part that will embarrass me, not you?
Secrets forever.
Yeah, so don't tell anybody so they don't know. My wife still gives me crap to this day. So what I noticed on profile, like if you check out women's profiles, they always have like you set in, right? Like this is the height range. This is, these different things you're kind of looking for, right? And 5'9" was the cutoff, right? Like every single time it was like, if you're under 5'9", I want nothing to do with you, right? There was like, yeah, there might be a couple people on there that's cool with that, but most of them were not ideal for me at the time. That's the nicest way I can put it. So I maybe stretched the truth because like about 5'6", 5'7", right? And I put 5'9", and my wife on our first date, she told me this later. She's like, I got out of the car and I wore my tallest heels, and you were definitely not 5'9". I was like, yeah, but that little stretch of the truth worked out really well for you, honey. Right?
Wow. Thank God you're a good liar. Should I?
No. It's not a lie. I mean, if I put on like heels too, I could be maybe 5'9". It is a stretch of the truth. A stretch of the truth. Yeah. And it's not really a good liar if you get caught immediately as she opens the car door on your first date. So
and all it took was her eyes to be functioning for you to be caught. That's hilarious.
Well, she saw this really tiny guy who was just strikingly handsome, great at conversation. Yeah. Great conversation. No, she actually told me she didn't like me that much after the first date. I was like, well, you went on a second date. She's like, yeah, fair enough. She thought I was cocky. Yeah. I was actually really nervous. That's the truth. Aww. And maybe a little cocky at the time. Right.
But you obviously have found the right person. And you guys, I was going to ask you what your secret was with your wife. 13 years. That's a tremendous feat. Right?
Yes. The secret is, I don't know if there's a secret is other than just communicating as much as possible. And like, especially when things aren't going well, because it's not always going well. Right. You just got to like try and talk about it and be as honest as possible. And my mistake early on in our relationship was bearing stuff down and then blowing up later, and not blowing up and like screaming, yelling, just like I would, instead of addressing something, I would let it build up. And she does it
Yeah.
differently. Like I'd let it build up and one thing would bother me and then I bring it up later, not that much later.
Yeah.
For her, she has a mental scoreboard in her head. Like I did the dishes and I did this and this and this and this. What did you
Yeah.
do? And,
Yeah.
and I don't do that. Right. Like, and I don't know if it's because I
No.
don't do anything, or I think it's more so that I don't have a checklist. Right. Like I don't have this. And she knows that she brings that up. So, both of us getting better at that and valuing what the other person does in the relationship more than what you do, right? Or try to recognize it. Anyhow, that's my love
I love
spiel.
that. I love that. So like her love language is like not words of affirmation, but like actions of service or something like that, right? That's probably
Yeah, it's
hers.
actions of service, but only the services that she wants. And I don't mean that. I'm not even saying that sarcastically. Like if I mow the lawn, she doesn't think about that as like doing something, right?
I got you. Like she
Yeah.
cares about
Yeah, so it'd be doing
vacuum.
stuff that's like the dishes and stuff. Or she doesn't like folding laundry. I'm like, I like folding laundry. Well, I don't like it, but I was like, I don't hate it. So like, I
Yeah.
was like, I'll pick up that slack there, so just communicating in that, and when you're getting, and just knowing that when it gets bad, like as long as you, well, not always, right? But like, it, everything's
do
up and down,
something.
right? And as long as the
Yeah.
other person's putting in as much as you are, and you love each other, then hopefully it'll work.
Sometimes you put in like 100. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes you put in 100. Sometimes she puts in 100, and
Yeah, but
you're a busy dude at work. So yeah. Oh, cool.
no.
Gotcha.
But everybody, so
But
OK Cupid is OK
are we
Stupid.
still on that topic? Do you know how many people I've now offended in this short 30 minutes?
A lot.
How many like companies I personally have offended?
Oh,
right? Like,
nobody cares. Nobody in the dental industry is going to care that you said that about OK Cupid, because if they find somebody on it, it works out great, right?
yeah, I mean, I think they should use it. Absolutely. It's you and your wife having had a 13-year relationship already successfully is testament to Match.com's like algorithm.
Yeah, well, I would say yes, maybe. Also
Maybe.
luck, right? Because that was her last day and my last day, right? Interestingly enough.
Oh, on Match.com.
Yeah. Because she had like a 3-month trial. I'm like, I'm not really, like, I went on dates, but I didn't, obviously, it's just like anything else, it's more like a baseball batting average. You're not going to hit a home run with every single date, right? Ever.
Yeah.
And so I probably went on 10 different dates with 10 different, and just so happened to be the last one. Well, that makes sense. Right.
Of course. Well, meant to be.
Yeah,
Kismet.
maybe. We'll see. We'll see if she keeps me for the next 13. I don't know. Stay tuned to find out.
Good feeling.
So let's wrap it up with this. What are you excited about in the future of, specific to you in dentistry with your group? Like as far as what, maybe it's some of building education, maybe it's be able to help more patients. And on the other side, what scares you about where the industry is going? Like, do you have any fears about it as well? So what's going to be good, and what are you, fearful of?
Great question, and great concluding points. I am very excited about growth in the DSO arena, period, because I think a lot of the DSOs, the top DSOs, have a real focus on curriculum for their clinicians and growing their doctors, because we all know, in the leadership groups that keeping a doctor whom you grew through your program of sorts is going to be a huge win for your company.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of focus, right? A lot of focus partnering with vendors to do that. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about seeing what kind of better support can set DSOs apart from the niche mom and pop, or the fee for service guys and gals. I think with numbers come power, and that I want to see all of us leverage to get more support for our clinicians, because again, they're the heart of the practice. What I am afraid of, I don't know. Nothing really scares me. I don't love. I guess I don't love the lack of applicants, if you will, like, team members,
Sure.
in light of the pandemic, we had a great resignation. And I don't know that if it's going to continue or, if we're going to need to evaluate some augmentation from international waters or something. I want our doctors and our hygienists and teams to have full teams, and to be able to operate efficiently and to have everything they need. And that does involve humans and good people to want to work and be a part of the solution. I think the talent in that pool is hard to find.
Yeah.
And with competitors like Chipotle and McDonald's offering, whatever, right? It's just, I want to have those people who are smart, who are hardworking alongside our doctors and hygienists.
Yeah.
And not so much at fast food.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the thing about the fast food place, what's interesting about this fast food place is you start to see the integration of ordering yourself through a computer. Like they're introducing that as a hybrid right now in certain places, and that will eventually replace them. That'll actually help other industries. Because I got to tell you right now, I travel a lot right now, and the service, and forget about dentistry because everybody's having the same issues. Like anywhere I go is the same. Everyone's understaffed right now. People don't want to come back to work. Like whether it's a restaurant, anything in service related, like a travel agency trying to book a flight, you have to wait on 3 hours because they had to get rid of everybody because nobody's traveling. And then now you have to rehire and do all that kind of stuff too. So it's not, dental is not certainly immune to it, especially with, assistants and office staff. But I hope that turns around because I don't know that's a great point and a great concern. Let's call it not a fear, but a concern going forward. Not just for DSOs, but private practice as well. Like that talent pool, What do you think is a solution to that? Like, is it, everybody's going to say it's money, right? Like pay them more, but yes, but what else can you do? Let's put that's the easy answer, but what else is it? What do they want? Is it, I want to have, cause what you don't see with the system is career path, right? And I think a dental service organization could set that up better than anybody else could.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think, putting empathy is going to be a great solution. Empathy from the leadership teams would be important because if we put ourselves in the shoes of a dental assistant who is, stressed because he or she is new and trying to support a clinician who's running 2 columns or 1 column, whatever, or a front desk person, business associate who's trying to check in patients, check out patients, and then treatment plan and insurances. So what can be done is have, departments that could alleviate the stresses of daily operations.
Some more specialization within the actual practice itself too.
Exactly. So that they don't have to submit insurance, right? Yeah.
You just solved the problem for the whole industry on the fly. That is impressive. She's brushing off her shoulders, everybody. I love it. They can't remember. They can't see you.
Well, that's how I roll. Solutions by you, for you.
By you, for you, off the cuff. That's what's up. That should be your podcast, right? People come bringing you questions, right?
No one would listen to that.
My mom listens to this and like a couple other people.
Shane is an amazing mom. He's really been quite the host and very impressive.
Yeah,
and very
you don't have to tell her that. She has a mental disorder where she thinks everything I do is amazing, and that's been going on for a long time. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. Everybody else sees what she does not. Well, let me ask you this. So you talk about mentorship and want to, help younger doctors coming up. If somebody is interested in speaking to you, whether it's about Mid-Atlantic Dental Partners or just wants to reach out, maybe make contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do
that? They should probably text me. Texting me.
Okay. Let's not give out your cell phone number on here. So
let's not do that.
Yeah. How about an email, maybe? An email or Instagram?
That sounds good. I don't have Instagram. I have Instagram. I don't know what the name is. So
okay. So when you, all right, how about an email? Will that work?
I have one of those. I do.
What is that? So we'll tell everybody else if they want to reach out to you. Is that okay?
I got it. Yeah, of course. Please. I was ready to give out my cell phone number, personal cell phone.
You can do it. You can do it. I would just not recommend it.
Let's not do that. Let's
start with email first.
Yeah, victoria.u@mid-atlantic.com.
And you is spelled
Atlantic.
Y-U, by the way, not Y-O-U. Okay.
Wow.
So Victoria, period, U-Y-U, at mid-atlantic-dental.com. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So for you up-and-coming dentists out there, maybe staff members or people interested, you can reach out to Dr. Yu there. At that point, she may consider giving you her cell phone number. We will not do that on the air, though. You're welcome, Dr. Yu. And if you're younger, you can tell Dr. Yu why the importance of she should really establish an Instagram account to communicate with all those young folks out there. That is my recommendation.
Boy. Well, after this, Shane, you and I will get on some kind of thing and
I'll show you how to do it. If I can figure it out, anybody can. All right, everybody. So thanks for tuning in, Dr. Yu. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you. But guys, you can tune on to the next episode of the All In Podcast. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the All In Podcast. See you next time.